Hello, and welcome to Module 4 in our series on free speech in K-12 schools. This module will provide an overview of legal decisions that address conflicts over the teaching of evolution in U.S. public schools. The first case to take this controversy up arose in Tennessee in the 1920s after a law was passed called the Butler Act, which made it illegal to teach evolution in public schools. John Scopes, pictured here, purposely incriminated himself so as to act as the defendant in this case. The ACLU was ready to defend him, and this case became quite famous and is often referred to as the, quote, Scopes monkey trial, and was made into a famous play entitled Inherit the Wind, and this was the beginning of a series of cases on this topic. In this decision, Scopes was found guilty, and it was appealed to the Supreme Court of Tennessee. And in that decision, the court upheld the law and found the statute was constitutional, as it did not endorse a particular religious viewpoint. So the law stayed on the books, and many other laws were passed in neighboring states that wanted to take up this same issue, which led to our next case. This is one that had much greater impact because it was decided and made it all the way to the Supreme Court in 1968. In this case, Epperson v. Arkansas, a high school biology teacher agreed to test the Arkansas state statute that had been modeled after Tennessee's Butler Act. What's interesting is that new science standards had been adopted in 1958, which included the study of evolution, and her high school had adopted a new textbook that included this content. There was this law that said teachers who violated it by teaching evolution were subject to a fine and dismissal. However, the National Education Association and the ACLU both endorsed Epperson as she voluntarily became the plaintiff in this case. Initially, the lower court ruled that the state law was unconstitutional, but on appeal, the state Supreme Court of Arkansas asserted that the curriculum belonged to the state. This was appealed again to the Supreme Court of the United States, where they did decide that the law was designed to protect a particular religious viewpoint and was therefore unconstitutional. They found that such bans on teaching evolution contravened the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment because their primary purpose was to promote a particular religious viewpoint. So, more recently, this topic emerged in two additional cases worth noting. In 1987, a similar case was brought against a Louisiana law by a biology teacher named Don Aguillard. Edwin Edwards, then governor of Louisiana, was named as the defendant in this case. So the Louisiana Act stipulated that creation science, quote unquote, should be taught in public schools alongside evolution. In this case, which made it to the Supreme Court, they did apply the Lemon test and found that this Louisiana law was facially invalid and violates the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment because it lacked a clear secular purpose, which was the first prong of the Lemon test. Because the act does not further the stated secular purpose of protecting academic freedom, and the act impermissibly endorses religion by advancing the religious belief that a supernatural being created humankind. Because this law was specifically intended to advance a particular religion, it violated the Establishment Clause. They also stated in their decision that, quote, teaching a variety of scientific theories about the origins of humankind to school children might be validly done with the clear secular intent of enhancing the effectiveness of science instruction. So finally, there was one more school district that took on this issue, and this was a school district in Pennsylvania. This was a case that came up in the mid-2000s when the federal district court in Pennsylvania was asked to decide a complaint by a group of parents about a school district policy that required the teaching of intelligent design because the school district adopted a textbook entitled Of Pandas and People that was published by a group called the Foundation for Thought and Ethics with the intention of teaching it alongside the traditional theories of evolution provided in biology classes. In this case, teachers in the Dover School District had to read a statement indicating that intelligent design was, quote, an explanation of the origin of life that differs from Darwin's view. A group of parents sued the school district over this requirement and the fact that it had to be read aloud in ninth grade science classes whenever evolution was taught. In this case, the U.S. District Court ruled that this law was unconstitutional and concluded that intelligent design is not science and permanently barred the board from maintaining the intelligent design policy in any school within the Dover Area School District, or from requiring teachers to denigrate or disparage the scientific theory of evolution, and from requiring teachers to refer to a religious alternative theory known as intelligent design. Interestingly enough, that year, the entire school board was replaced by a set of challengers who ran on their stance that they opposed the teaching of intelligent design. So this decision was never appealed to a higher court and is sort of the last word on this issue, and is one that is helpful to draw from if you need to in conversations with students or parents in your schools. So now I want you to take a moment to reflect on the questions above. Even though the legal landscape is clear on this topic, as educators, we still need to find ways to respect our students, understand their viewpoints, and keep their families engaged with the work that we are doing in our schools. So take a moment to pause the video and jot down some notes or discuss with a partner how you might handle these situations in your own school. Welcome back. I hope you found the information in this module helpful for you as you develop a greater understanding of how these conflicts emerge in schools. By applying the concepts from the prior modules, as well as your own experiences working with students and in diverse communities, I hope you've been able to develop some strategies and ideas on how to work through these complex issues in your own classroom. The final module will present various scenarios and case studies for you to put all you have learned into practice. So be sure to find a colleague to complete the module with, as your ideas and discussions are some of the richest parts of the learning process.